This book is going to change your life. Look at how much you're about to learn. Let's jump in. Part 1. Fundamental Techniques in Handling People. Chapter 1. If you want to gather. Honey, don't kick over the beehive. Carnegie starts by addressing one of the most common traps in communication: criticism. Criticism often does more harm than good. It wounds a person's pride and fosters resentment, which rarely leads to positive change. Carnegie challenges us to shift from condemning others to trying to understand them. For instance, imagine a coworker who missed a deadline. Instead of saying, "You're so unreliable," you might ask, "Was there something that made it hard to meet the deadline?" This approach encourages dialogue instead of defensiveness. He puts it bluntly: any fool can criticize, condemn, and complain, and most fools do. But understanding requires effort and empathy. By trying to see the world through someone else's eyes, you preserve relationships and often inspire cooperation. So the next time you're tempted to criticize, pause. Reflect on what might be driving the other person's actions and approach the situation with kindness. Practical steps to apply this include avoiding snap judgments, asking questions to uncover the other person's perspective, and focusing on solutions instead of problems. This doesn't mean ignoring mistakes, but addressing them in a way that fosters growth and connection. Chapter 2. The Big Secret of Dealing with People. The second chapter introduces a universal truth: people crave appreciation and recognition. Carnegie emphasizes that showing genuine gratitude is one of the simplest yet most effective ways to build positive relationships. Think about how you feel when someone sincerely acknowledges your effort or achievements. It's uplifting, right? Now imagine giving that feeling to others regularly. He explains, the deepest principle in human nature is the craving to be appreciated. This isn't about empty flattery, it's about heartfelt, specific praise. For example, instead of saying, "Great job," try, "I really admire how you stayed calm under pressure during that meeting. It made a big difference." That level of specificity shows you've noticed and truly value their contribution. Making appreciation a habit doesn't take much effort, but has a profound impact. Start by looking for opportunities to recognize the people around you. Avoid insincere compliments. Instead, focus on what genuinely stands out. Over time, you'll find that this small habit transforms how others respond to you. Chapter 3. He who can do this has the whole world with him. In this chapter, Carnegie dives into a key aspect of influence: understanding and aligning with others' desires. People are naturally motivated by their own interests, and effective communication appeals to those interests. For example, if you're pitching an idea at work, don't frame it in terms of what you want. Focus on how it benefits the team or organization. Carnegie advises, the only way on earth to influence other people is to talk about what they want and show them how to get it. This means putting your goals aside momentarily to uncover what truly matters to the other person. Whether it's recognition, success, or security, aligning your request with their priorities makes them far more likely to say yes. Practicing this principle starts with listening. Ask open-ended questions to learn what motivates the people you're working with. Then, frame your ideas or requests in a way that shows how it aligns with their goals. For example, instead of saying, "I need you to help with this project," try, "Your expertise in design would make this project a success. Can we collaborate?" This shift not only shows respect, but also fosters a sense of partnership. Part 2. 6 ways to make people like you. Chapter 1. Do this, and you'll be welcome anywhere. Carnegie opens this chapter with a simple truth: being genuinely interested in others is the key to making friends. People are naturally drawn to those who show authentic curiosity and value them without any hidden agenda. He famously says, "You can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get people interested in you." This idea highlights the power of shifting your focus from yourself to those around you. For example, when meeting someone new, instead of talking about your weekend plans, ask them about theirs. Listen actively and show curiosity about their life, work, or hobbies. Carnegie emphasizes that people are not interested in you. They are interested in themselves. By recognizing this and focusing on their interests, you can build trust and camaraderie. Here's how to apply this principle. Practice active listening in conversations. asking follow-up questions, and avoiding interruptions. Show genuine curiosity about their stories and lives. Over time, you'll naturally form stronger bonds by simply valuing others. Chapter 2. A simple way to make a good first impression. In this chapter, Carnegie highlights the transformative power of a genuine smile. A smile conveys warmth, enthusiasm, and approachability, which helps others feel comfortable and valued. He describes it as a universal symbol of goodwill, explaining, "Your smile is a messenger of your goodwill." This simple gesture can create an immediate connection with others, making it easier to build rapport. Think about the last time someone greeted you with a warm smile. It likely made the interaction more pleasant and welcoming. Carnegie adds, "People rarely succeed at anything unless they have fun doing it." Smiling not only improves how others perceive you, but also reflects an inner attitude of happiness. To put this into practice, smile authentically in both social and professional settings. Even on phone calls, a smile can influence your tone and make you sound more positive. If you struggle to smile naturally, try cultivating a positive mindset. It will shine through in your expression. Chapter 3. If you don't do this, you are headed for trouble. Carnegie moves next to the importance of remembering and using people's names. He calls a person's name the sweetest and most important sound in any language. Addressing someone by name shows attentiveness and respect, creating a personal connection that leaves a lasting impression. For example, if you meet someone at an event and remember their name later, they're likely to feel valued and appreciated. Carnegie emphasizes that a name is more than a word. It's an affirmation of someone's individuality. Using it naturally during conversations personalizes the interaction and demonstrates that you see them as unique. Here are some tips to help you remember names. Associate a person's name with a distinctive feature or an interest they mention. Use their name early and often in your conversation to reinforce your memory. By doing this, you not only make others feel important, but also strengthen your relationships. Chapter 4. An easy way to become a good conversationalist. Carnegie emphasizes that being a good conversationalist is less about talking and more about listening. Encouraging others to talk about themselves is one of the best ways to connect. He says, to be interesting, be interested. This means showing genuine curiosity about someone's experiences, passions, and thoughts. For example, if someone mentions they just returned from a vacation, ask them what their favorite part was or why they chose that destination. When you give people the space to share their stories, you make them feel heard and valued. Carnegie adds, ask questions that other persons will enjoy answering. Open-ended questions are particularly effective for sparking meaningful conversations. To apply this, avoid dominating discussions. Instead, ask thoughtful questions and follow up on what the other person shares. When you show genuine interest, you'll naturally leave a positive impression and build stronger connections. Chapter 5. How to interest people. Carnegie builds on the idea of focusing on others by highlighting the importance of tailoring conversations to their interests. He explains, the royal road to a man's heart is to talk to him about the things he treasures most. Whether it's a hobby, a career goal, or a personal passion, aligning your conversation with what someone values creates instant rapport. Imagine a coworker who loves photography. Instead of sticking to work-related topics, ask them about their favorite photos or techniques. Carnegie reminds us, talk to people about themselves, and they will listen for hours. People naturally open up when the conversation revolves around something they care about. To apply this principle, do a little homework before meetings or social events. Learn what interests or motivates the people you'll be interacting with. During conversations, ask follow-up questions that validate their interests. This approach not only holds their attention, but also fosters goodwill and mutual respect. Chapter 6. How to make people like you instantly. Carnegie begins this chapter by addressing a universal human need, the desire to feel important and appreciated. He explains that making others feel valued is one of the fastest ways to form positive and lasting impressions. It's not just about being polite, it's about genuinely acknowledging people's worth. Carnegie sums it up simply, always make the other person feel important. Think about how you feel when someone gives you a thoughtful compliment. It's uplifting, right? That's the effect you can have on others. But here's the key. Your compliments need to be specific and sincere. Saying "great job" is nice, but saying Your ability to keep calm under pressure really impressed me during that presentation is far more impactful. Carnegie reminds us that almost all the people you meet feel themselves superior to you in some way. When you acknowledge someone's unique contributions, you tap into their sense of pride and create goodwill. To apply this, start looking for genuine reasons to compliment people around you. Avoid shallow flattery. It doesn't build trust. Instead, focus on specific achievements or qualities that stand out. By adopting an attitude of respect and appreciation, you'll strengthen your relationships and make others feel valued. Part 3. How to win people to your way of thinking. Chapter 1. You can't win an argument. Carnegie opens with a powerful insight. Arguing with someone rarely changes their mind. In fact, arguments often make people more entrenched in their positions and damage relationships in the process. He puts it bluntly, you can't win an argument. You can't, because if you lose it, you lose it. And if you win it, you lose it. Winning an argument might feel good in the moment, but it usually leaves the other person feeling defeated and resentful. Instead of debating, Carnegie suggests focusing on understanding. For example, if someone disagrees with you, ask them to explain their perspective. By listening and seeking common ground, you create an environment where dialogue can thrive. The goal is not to win, but to collaborate. To practice this, avoid confrontational discussions and instead steer the conversation towards shared goals. Use empathy to diffuse tension, and when disagreements arise, acknowledge the other person's viewpoint before presenting your own. This approach not only preserves relationships, but also makes others more receptive to your ideas. Chapter 2. A sure way of making enemies and how to avoid it. Building on the previous chapter, Carnegie warns against the habit of pointing out when someone is wrong. Few things create resentment faster than publicly proving someone wrong, even if your intentions are good. Carnegie emphasizes, show respect for the other person's opinions. Never say, you're wrong. Why? Because it puts people on the defensive and damages trust. Instead, approach disagreements with tact and humility. For example, if you strongly disagree with someone in a meeting, try saying, "That's an interesting perspective. Can you help me understand your reasoning?" This phrasing opens the door for dialogue without creating conflict. To apply this, avoid phrases like, "You're wrong," or "That doesn't make sense." Instead, frame disagreements as questions or alternative perspectives. Seek to understand the reasoning behind someone's views before responding. Respectful discussions build trust and often lead to better understanding on both sides. Chapter 3. If you're wrong, admit it. Carnegie shifts the focus to personal accountability in this chapter, encouraging us to admit our mistakes openly and quickly. He explains that owning up to your errors disarms criticism and earns respect. By fighting, you never get enough, but by yielding you get more than you expected, he says. Admitting fault shows integrity and creates opportunities for reconciliation. For example, if you make a mistake at work saying, "I missed that deadline and I take full responsibility," is far more effective than making excuses. It not only diffuses potential conflict, but also sets the tone for constructive problem solving. Carnegie advises admitting mistakes quickly and emphatically to show sincerity and maturity. To implement this, practice acknowledging your errors without hesitation or defensiveness. Use humility to turn criticism into dialogue. By taking responsibility for your actions, you demonstrate credibility and build trust with others. Please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. Chapter 4. A Drop of Honey. Carnegie starts this chapter with a vivid metaphor. A drop of honey catches more flies than a gallon of gall. This beautifully illustrates the power of kindness and understanding over criticism and force. He argues that people are far more likely to cooperate when approached with warmth and respect. Think about it. If someone criticizes you harshly, your first instinct is probably to defend yourself. But if they approach you with kindness, you're much more open to listening. Carnegie adds, "If you come at me with your fists doubled, I think I can promise you that mine will double as fast as yours." This reminds us that hostility breeds hostility, while kindness fosters cooperation. For example, if you need to address a sensitive issue with a colleague, Start by acknowledging their strengths or contributions. Setting a positive tone helps reduce defensiveness and opens the door to productive dialogue. To apply this, approach disagreements with a calm demeanor and lead difficult conversations with positive statements. Practice patience and understanding, especially when emotions run high. Remember, kindness doesn't just make others more receptive, it also strengthens relationships over time. Chapter 5, The Secret of Socrates. In this chapter, Carnegie introduces the yes technique, a method of starting conversations by finding common ground. He explains, get the other person saying yes, yes at the outset. When you begin with points of agreement, you create a cooperative atmosphere that makes it easier to address contentious topics later. Imagine discussing a workplace challenge. Instead of diving into areas of disagreement, you might begin by saying, I think we both want this project to succeed. By emphasizing shared goals, you pave the way for consensus on more difficult issues. Carnegie advises, in talking with people, don't begin by discussing the things on which you differ. To implement this, start discussions by identifying areas of agreement to build momentum. Frame contentious topics in a way that aligns with mutual values or goals. This approach not only reduces resistance, but also fosters understanding and collaboration. Chapter 6, The Safety Valve in Handling Complaints. Carnegie's advice here is simple yet powerful. Let people express their concerns freely. He explains that listening attentively to complaints not only diffuses tension, but also builds trust and goodwill. As he puts it, let the other person do a great deal of the talking. People often feel better just by having the chance to vent and feel heard. For example, if a customer or colleague is upset, resist the urge to interrupt or immediately offer solutions. Instead, let them share their frustrations fully. Carnegie reminds us, people who talk about themselves and their problems are happier for doing so. Providing this safe space shows that you value their perspective, even if you don't agree with every point. To put this into practice, encourage others to share their thoughts by asking open-ended questions. Listen without interrupting, and validate their feelings by acknowledging their emotions. This approach not only resolves complaints more effectively, but also strengthens your relationships. Chapter 7, How to Get Cooperation. Carnegie emphasizes the importance of involving others in decision-making to foster cooperation. He explains, let the other person feel that the idea is theirs. When people feel ownership over an idea or plan, they're far more likely to support it. For instance, instead of telling a team member exactly how to complete a task, ask for their input on the best approach. Carnegie also notes, people are more likely to accept an order if they have had a part in the decision that caused the order to be issued. Framing solutions collaboratively inspires a sense of partnership and teamwork. This not only increases engagement, but also leads to better outcomes. To apply this, solicit input from others when working on shared goals or projects. Phrase suggestions as questions to invite collaboration and acknowledge their contributions to reinforce their investment. When people feel involved, they're naturally more cooperative and motivated. Chapter 8, A Formula That Will Work Wonders for You. Chapter 8 highlights the transformative power of empathy. Carnegie advises, try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view. When you take the time to understand someone else's perspective, you reduce resistance and create a foundation for mutual respect. This is especially helpful in resolving disagreements or conflicts. For example, if a colleague opposes your idea, ask yourself why they might feel that way. Carnegie explains, there is a reason why the other man thinks and acts as he does. By exploring their concerns and validating their feelings, you can shift the conversation from conflict to constructive dialogue. To practice empathy, actively put yourself in the other person's shoes. Reflect their concerns back to them to show understanding and avoid dismissing differing opinions. Empathy not only minimizes conflict, but also deepens your relationships over time. Chapter 9, What Everybody Wants. Carnegie begins by identifying a universal truth. People crave validation. Whether it's for their feelings, ideas, or efforts, acknowledging and affirming someone's perspective makes them feel valued. He points out, 3/4 of the people you will ever meet are hungering and thirsting for sympathy. Give it to them, and they will love you. This chapter is all about recognizing and respecting others' emotions to build goodwill and trust. Think about a time when you were frustrated or upset, and someone responded with genuine understanding. It likely made you feel respected and supported, didn't it? Carnegie encourages us to provide that same level of validation to others. He reminds us that offering sympathy doesn't mean agreeing with everything. It's about showing that their feelings are valid and worth acknowledging. To apply this, practice responding to frustrations with empathy and genuine sympathy. Look for opportunities to affirm someone's perspective or effort, even if it's small. Avoid dismissive language like, "You're overreacting," and instead try something like, "I can see why you'd feel that way." These simple shifts can turn potential conflicts into opportunities for connection. Chapter 10. An appeal that everybody likes. In this chapter, Carnegie explains the power of appealing to noble motives. He emphasizes that people are often motivated by higher principles such as fairness, honor, or generosity. Appeal to the nobler motives, he advises, because when you align your requests with someone's values, they're more likely to cooperate enthusiastically. For example, if you're asking a colleague to help with a project, don't just focus on the logistics. Instead, frame it in terms of how their contribution will make a meaningful impact, such as benefiting the team or achieving a shared goal. Carnegie points out that a person usually has two reasons for doing a thing, one that sounds good and a real one. By appealing to the reason that sounds good, you inspire people to see the best version of themselves in their actions. To practice this, start framing your requests in ways that align with the other person's values. Highlight how their cooperation contributes to a greater good, whether it's helping others or advancing a shared mission. Just be genuine. Manipulation erodes trust. When your appeals are authentic, they create goodwill and inspire action. Chapter 11. The movies do it. TV does it. Why don't you do it? Carnegie shifts gears here to talk about the power of storytelling. He explains that dry facts and explanations rarely capture attention, but dramatizing your ideas can make them memorable and engaging. Merely stating a truth isn't enough, he writes. The truth has to be made vivid, interesting, and dramatic. This principle taps into the same techniques that movies and TV shows use to keep us hooked: emotion, imagery, and narrative. For instance, imagine you're presenting a new idea at work. Instead of listing bullet points, share a compelling story about how the idea has succeeded elsewhere or how it could solve a pressing problem. People naturally respond to stories because they create emotional connections and make abstract ideas tangible. To apply this, start incorporating anecdotes, examples, or visuals into your communication. Whether you're pitching an idea or leading a team meeting, make your points come alive with relatable and engaging narratives. Avoid relying solely on dry explanations. Think about how you can make your message resonate emotionally. Chapter 12. When nothing else works, try this. Finally, Carnegie introduces the concept of throwing down a challenge. He explains that people are often inspired to rise to the occasion when presented with a healthy sense of competition or a clear goal. The way to get things done is to stimulate competition, he writes. Challenges tap into our innate drive to prove ourselves and achieve something meaningful. For example, if a team member is struggling with motivation, you could frame their task as an opportunity to set a new personal or team record. Carnegie emphasizes that challenges should be framed positively to inspire enthusiasm rather than pressure. The key is to set expectations that are high but achievable, creating a sense of pride and accomplishment when they're met. To practice this, frame tasks or goals as challenges to spark motivation. Highlight the potential for achievement or recognition, whether it's a new milestone or a reward for effort. Most importantly, foster a supportive environment that celebrates progress and success. This approach not only motivates individuals, but also strengthens the team dynamic. Please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. Part 4. Be a leader. How to change people without giving offense or arousing resentment. Chapter 1. If you must find fault, this is the way to begin. Carnegie opens with an essential principle. Always start feedback with sincere praise. He explains that leading with appreciation softens the impact of criticism and makes people more receptive to your message. As he says, begin with praise and honest appreciation. Starting on a positive note shows respect for the other person's strengths, which reduces defensiveness and sets the tone for a constructive conversation. Imagine addressing a team member who missed a deadline. Instead of immediately pointing out their mistake, you could begin by saying, "I really value how dedicated you've been to this project. You've done great work so far." Then transition to discussing the issue. Carnegie reminds us, it is always easier to listen to unpleasant things after we have heard some praise of our good points. Balancing criticism with recognition doesn't just make feedback easier to hear, it also motivates people to improve. To apply this, identify genuine qualities or achievements to praise before addressing an issue. Use positive framing to ensure your feedback feels constructive rather than confrontational. And always balance criticism with acknowledgement of past successes to maintain morale. Chapter 2: How to Criticize and Not Be Hated for It. This chapter builds on the idea of constructive feedback by focusing on subtlety. Carnegie advises against direct criticism, which can embarrass or alienate others. Instead, he suggests pointing out mistakes indirectly through observations or questions. For example, if a colleague's report contains errors, you might say, "Have you considered reviewing this section to ensure it's as clear as possible?" This approach encourages reflection without making the person feel attacked. Carnegie explains, call attention to people's mistakes indirectly. He emphasizes that people respond better to gentle guidance, as it allows them to recognize and correct errors on their own. By using tact and empathy, you can turn a potential conflict into an opportunity for growth. To practice this, phrase criticisms as questions or observations rather than direct statements. Highlight opportunities for improvement instead of focusing solely on the mistake. This respectful approach fosters collaboration and strengthens relationships. Chapter 3: Talk about your own mistakes. First, Carnegie introduces an empowering strategy, admitting your own mistakes before addressing someone else's. He explains that acknowledging your imperfections creates a sense of equality and reduces defensiveness. Admitting one's own mistakes, even when one hasn't corrected them, can help convince somebody to change their behavior, he writes. This humility fosters mutual respect and opens the door for constructive dialogue. For example, if you're giving feedback on missed deadlines, you might say, "I used to struggle with time management too. It's something I've had to work on over the years." By sharing your own experiences, you demonstrate empathy and show that improvement is a shared journey. To implement this, use your own challenges or mistakes to illustrate lessons when giving feedback. Frame discussions as mutual efforts to improve rather than placing blame. This approach not only strengthens your connection, but also inspires others to be more open to change. Chapter 4: No one likes to take orders. Carnegie emphasizes the importance of asking rather than ordering. He explains, ask questions instead of giving direct orders. By framing requests as questions, you empower others to take ownership of tasks and solutions. For instance, instead of saying, "Finish this report by tomorrow," you could ask, "What's the best way we can get this report done by tomorrow?" This approach fosters collaboration and creativity. Carnegie points out that questions make tasks feel less like commands and more like shared goals. This not only boosts motivation, but also inspires people to contribute their ideas, leading to better results. Asking for input shows respect and builds a sense of partnership. To practice this, involve others in decision-making by asking for their suggestions or solutions. Frame requests collaboratively to encourage autonomy and initiative. When people feel they have a say, they're more likely to engage with the task at hand. Chapter 5: Let the other person save face. Carnegie stresses the importance of preserving someone's dignity during criticism. Let the other person save face, he advises. Criticizing someone publicly or humiliating them damages trust and morale. Even when addressing a clear mistake, it's essential to handle the conversation privately and respectfully. For example, if a team member presents incorrect data in a meeting, avoid calling them out in front of others. Instead, address the issue afterward in a one-on-one conversation. Carnegie explains, even if we are right and the other person is definitely wrong, We only destroy ego by causing someone to feel humiliated. Protecting someone's dignity strengthens relationships and fosters cooperation. To apply this, offer feedback in private to avoid embarrassment. Focus on solutions rather than blame, and acknowledge the person's intentions or efforts. This approach builds trust and ensures that your feedback is received positively. Chapter 6: How to Spur People On to Success. Carnegie opens this chapter with a powerful idea: progress thrives on encouragement. He explains that recognizing and celebrating even small improvements can have a profound impact on someone's confidence and motivation. As he puts it, praise the slightest improvement and praise every improvement. This is a reminder that abilities wither under constant criticism, but blossom when nurtured with encouragement. Imagine a team member who's just starting to take on new responsibilities. Even if their efforts aren't perfect, acknowledging their progress can make a huge difference. For example, you might say, "I can see how much effort you're putting into this. You've already made great strides." Carnegie emphasizes that small milestones matter because they build momentum for continued growth. To put this into practice, make it a habit to notice and celebrate incremental progress. Use specific examples to make your praise meaningful, such as highlighting a particular improvement or effort. And remember to focus on persistence and effort rather than perfection. This inspires people to keep striving toward their goals. Chapter 7: Give a dog a good name. This chapter introduces a fascinating concept: the power of positive labeling. Carnegie explains that assigning someone a good reputation can motivate them to live up to it. He writes, "If you want to improve a person in a certain respect, act as though that particular trait were already one of their outstanding characteristics." Essentially, you're setting the stage for a self-fulfilling prophecy. For example, imagine you're working with a colleague who struggles with organization. Instead of pointing out their past difficulties, you might say, "You've always had a great eye for detail, and I think that will really help us stay on track." This not only builds their confidence, but also encourages them to rise to the expectation you've set. To apply this, highlight the strengths and potential you see in others. Assign roles or responsibilities that align with those strengths to reinforce their confidence. And use affirming language that inspires them to embody the positive traits you've acknowledged. Chapter 8: Make the fault seem easy to correct. Carnegie reminds us that how we frame challenges can make all the difference in whether someone takes action. He advises, if you want to help others improve, make the fault seem easy to correct. When you simplify tasks and focus on manageable steps, you reduce overwhelm and foster a sense of capability. For instance, if someone is struggling to tackle a large project, you might break it down into smaller, more approachable tasks. Say something like, "Let's start with this first step. It's straightforward and will get us moving in the right direction." By framing the challenge as achievable, you instill confidence and inspire action. To practice this, break complex problems into smaller, more manageable parts. Reassure others of their ability to succeed, emphasizing progress over perfection. And always focus on positive outcomes, reminding them of the incremental achievements along the way. Chapter 9: Making people glad to do what you want. In this final chapter, Carnegie focuses on the importance of aligning tasks with people's desires and interests. He explains, "The secret of success lies in making the other person want to do the thing you want them to do. When you connect your requests to their goals or values, cooperation becomes natural and enthusiastic. For example, if you're asking someone to take on a new project, frame it in terms of how it benefits them. You could say, 'This project will give you a chance to showcase your skills and make a real impact on the team's success.'" Carnegie emphasizes that positive reinforcement and recognition also play a crucial role in sustaining motivation. To implement this, explain how completing tasks aligns with the other person's values or aspirations. Express gratitude for their contributions, letting them know their efforts are noticed and appreciated. And reinforce positive behaviors with specific praise to keep their enthusiasm high. If you have made it this far, be sure to leave a comment below saying what your biggest takeaway is. And as we wrap up, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Dale Carnegie teaches us that how we interact with others determines the quality of our lives, whether in our personal or professional spheres. His advice boils down to treating people with empathy, appreciation, and kindness, while fostering collaboration and trust. These principles are simple yet powerful and can lead to transformative changes in the way we communicate and connect. Here are 3 actionable insights you can start using today. Make others feel valued. Start by focusing on appreciation. Whether it's a colleague, friend, or a family member, find something specific to praise. For example, instead of saying, "Good job," try, "I really admire how you handled that difficult situation." The specificity makes the compliment more meaningful and shows you're paying attention. Listen more than you speak. In conversations, prioritize listening over talking. Practice active listening by maintaining eye contact, nodding to show understanding, and asking thoughtful follow-up questions. This not only deepens your connection, but also shows that you value the other person's thoughts and experiences. Frame interactions around shared goals. Whether you're giving feedback or making a request, align your approach with the other person's priorities. For instance, instead of saying, "I need this done," try, "This project could really showcase your strengths. How do you think we can make it successful together?" This shift from a directive to a collaborative tone fosters cooperation and enthusiasm. Ultimately, the lessons in how to win friends and influence people remind us to treat others the way we wish to be treated, with respect, kindness, and understanding.